Heavy Petting with Cheri Hardman. Today's guest is Rachel Rothenberg. Hey, Rachel, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Glad to have you here. I've been excited to have you on.
I've been excited to come on. Thank you for having me.
So I know you have some friends or a friend that you're going to, I don't know if there's one, just one or more, that you're going to introduce me to. So let's do that first.
Sure, yes. So in addition to having 2 cats, I do have 2 normal pets. I also have 6 praying mantis babies. And I have one of them with me now. Her name is Jiggly. I'm going to pop her out of this cup here that I have put her into for this purpose. And she's very small. Normally she lives in, I can show you her house while she gets adjusted, but normally she lives in a gallon jar with a branch. And I have 6 of these guys. And here she is. I don't know if you can see very well.
Oh, yeah.
But she is a spiny flower mantis.
Can you maybe move her over in front of what's behind you that's dark?
Yeah, give me one second.
She's blending in with your shirt, kind of.
Yeah, I'm getting her on my finger. I should have worn a different color of shirt, huh? Yeah, so.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, yeah,
she looks like a,
She looks kind of, from a distance, like a popcorn piece or something.
Yeah, like some kind of weird fluff ball or something.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
So she is I can't get my camera to focus on her because she's so little, but she is a spiny flower mantis, and she is currently, I would estimate, probably a pre-subadult, which means that she is probably 2 molts away from adulthood. She has wing nubs, and you can see the beginning of her wings developing. So she's definitely a female, and she may go on to spawn the next generation. Who knows?
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me how you got interested and how you ended up. First of all, why is her name Jiggly? She doesn't look very jiggly.
So this species of mantis, when they move, and she's not really doing it right now, but they shake their butts and they basically twerk. And she specifically is named that because she's often very defensive, and when they get defensive, they do this like whole body vibration motion. And so that was the source of her name. They have kind of a mix of names. Some of them have very, very fancy formal names, and some of them have very silly names. She happened to get a silly name.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
All right, and how did you end up with her?
Oh yeah, so I believe in 2017, I had been talking about wanting to have a praying mantis as a pet for a long time, but I had a native praying mantis fly into my lap basically at an old apartment where I lived, and she was too fat to fly, and I knew that they sprayed for bugs in the courtyard of the apartment where I lived, so I was like, I'm just gonna bring her in, you know, because the females do get too fat to fly. That is an interesting thing about praying mantises. But so I brought her into my house and I kept her as a pet, and subsequently I wound up joining all these groups on Facebook, and you know, for keeping praying mantises. And so when she eventually died, I wound up ordering some spiny flower mantis nymphs, which is this species, which is my favorite species to keep. And I have just been sort of keeping them off and on ever since. At one point, I kept 3 consecutive generations of the same line of spiny flower mantises. And yeah, so I have bred them. They are a very interesting species, and it was kind of an accident that I got into them. They're not usually recommended for beginning insect keepers, but I have managed with them and learned a lot about them and become something of an expert on them.
Wow, that's really interesting. So you said that one flew in your, so where do you live?
I live in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Okay.
And it was not a mantis like this. So the mantis that flew into my lap was just a Mantis religiosa, which is just a European mantis, which is like what you picture when you picture a mantis, you know, like a big green mantis. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So her butt right now is all curled up. I don't know how well you can see, but she has this little curly little butt. And as she gets, when she becomes an adult, her butt will flatten out and she will look more the shape of a regular mantis that you would imagine.
Wow.
Yeah. Weird stuff.
Well, no, it's really interesting because You know, I don't know anybody that has anything unusual like that. So, do you find that they have personalities,
Um,
or do you kind of think of them all like as the same?
so I think it very much depends on the insect. So I guess the answer would be yes. I think a lot of them don't seem to have much of a personality, but I have definitely met ones who did have a personality, if I may
Mm-hmm.
say so. But
Right.
I mean, there is always the risk that, you know, I'm anthropomorphizing and it's just my imagination and I'm just attributing traits to them. But, you know, it is fun. Like I mean, they do seem to have different temperaments. Like I was saying, like she's often very defensive. Some of them that I've had have been very friendly. Some of them are very, very feisty. You know, it just depends on the bug.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they do vary from individual to individual.
Right. That's fabulous. Any other like uh facts or anything that you have from, like, usually I ask people, do your pets do any tricks or do they have any quirks? I mean, we've kind of like gone over, but if there's anything else that you can tell us, because I find it interesting and fascinating.
Yeah. So, I mean, I imagine that the thing that people would probably wonder the most about praying mantises and breeding them specifically is um, the sexual cannibalism aspect of praying
Right.
mantises.
Right.
That's if I had to say my pet has any special skill, it would be eating its mate. Um, but yeah, I have bred them several times, and I've only had a male get eaten one time, and it was generally people say that they only eat the male if they're hungry, but that was not the case in this case. And I used to always say that, but she just ate him because she wanted to. I don't really know what
Mm-hmm.
compelled her. But yeah, the sexual cannibalism thing is definitely real. You do breed them, you actually have to go to pretty great lengths to prevent them from eating each other. Um,
Right.
so it's kind of a
So is it
weird.
like simultaneous? Or, I mean, or do you know when they're mating, or do you just put them together for a while and see what happens? Or like, because
Yeah.
I guess I'm just saying, like, if you see them mate, then don't you just move them apart, or is it a
Um,
little sneakier than that?
yeah. So in order to mate, they do a whole bunch of weird like mating dances for each other. They, in my experience, participate in what strongly resembles BDSM to me. I have seen
Mhm.
them beat the absolute crap out of each other in the process of like obtaining consent to mate. I could write a book on mantis consent, but anyway, you know, they do all these weird things, and the success that I have had breeding them has come from the fact, in my opinion, that I have allowed them to kind of fight it out and like spend a lot of time getting to know each other before just like trying to like put the male on the female's back kind of thing, which is how a lot of
Right.
mantis breeders do it. They just kind of stick them together, and I'm like, no, let them have a little romance. Let them have some, let them, you know, kick each other in the face if that's what they want to do, and that is what they want to do. But then as for like how do you remove them, how do you prevent it, so like when they mate, the male basically goes into like a zombie like state, and he just latches his body onto the female's back and becomes
Mm,
essentially unresponsive. So
mm,
so
got
you
it.
really have to get in there, and after you have seen them connect, which is to say you've seen him put his, you know, mantis parts
Mm-hmm.
into her mantis parts, afterwards you have to kind of after that's gone on for a while, if they do not separate on their own, you kind of have to like gently, you know, with like a Q-tip or something, like kind of nudge him away and then kind of get him to safety. Because if the fertilization is completed and the female gets bored and hungry, she will eat him if
Mm-hmm.
he's still on her back. So yeah,
Well, I don't see anything wrong with that personally, but you know,
yeah,
that's their thing. Yeah. All right.
absolutely.
Well, if Jiggly could write a review of you as an owner, what would
Hmm.
she say?
She would probably say, you know, feeds me enough, waters me enough, should have moved me into a bigger house sooner, because I don't know. I did only just recently move them up into the big jars, and they've been really, really liking living in them. They've been all dangling on their branches in different spots, and I just recently gave them that upgrade because they start out very, very tiny, as you can tell. She is still very, very small, but she has grown substantially since I got her. When I got her, she was basically the size of an ant, and fully black as well. So an interesting thing about them is that they do look like little black ants with little curly butts as when they're born, and then they, over the course of their molts, they transform through many different color stages into gradually like a white and green mantis. And she is close to her adult coloration, but she's not fully there. But yeah, as for a review of me, I would say, I mean, she seems to like me well enough. She's just chilling on my finger, you know?
Right. Well, there you go.
How can you really know?
Yeah. That's cool. Well, you can keep holding her or you can put her away now because we're going to switch. So it's up to you.
Totally.
But we're going to talk now about heavy petting of the human variety.
Yes.
And I'm going to stop here and pause and say that I have to define it because some young people don't understand. Heavy petting just means, it used to mean like making out or going to third base, or in the context of my show, it just means anything from dating to relationships to sex. So
yeah,
if you have like an interesting story that would have to relate to heavy petting, I would love for you to tell it to us.
Totally. Are you interested in the story of how I met my spouse on Craigslist?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yes, I met my husband, whom I married just a little over a month ago, on Craigslist via a missed connection.
Oh, yeah. I never heard of anyone actually connecting.
Well, the funny thing about it was that it was not about me, and it was completely misinterpreted. It was completely an accident. I just, it arrived in my inbox because I was a regular at this coffee shop that had closed down in Salt Lake, and the missed connection was about this place that I always was, and it was written in such a fashion that the who it was describing was very unclear, and I thought that it was describing my best friend at the time, so I answered it because I thought I was going to be setting her up with somebody, and it turns out, number one, that friend is gay and would not be interested in a man that I was setting her up with in the first place, and number two, it turned out that the description in the missed connection was a description of the writer of the missed connection rather than a description of the person he was looking for, because
but it was your husband. It's your husband now that wrote the ad, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And so yeah, he was like drunk at his dad's house on Thanksgiving and like wrote this thing on a whim because he just thought that they were interesting, and he was like lonely, and I was the person who answered it, and we wound up then coincidentally meeting in person the next day, and just, you know, hitting it off and, you know, enjoying some heavy petting as well.
So,
you know,
hang on, let me ask a couple questions.
Totally.
So when you met the next day, had you already established that he wasn't looking for you?
Yes.
Okay, so you did that via email or whatever.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, so we established that it was an error, and that it was a strange occurrence in the first place, but he was like, oh, I'm new to the city, like, you know, I don't want to be an opportunist, but like, who are you? And I was like, well, you know, I'm this person, I'm 21 years old, I'm a disaster, you know, what do you want to know? And we got to know each other, and then we got to know each other, and then,
there you go.
Yeah.
So where did you meet him? At the place where?
At a different coffee shop. Actually, it's like half a block away from where I live now, actually. In our first apartment together. Oh.
Now how long ago was this that you met him?
That was in 2012.
2012. So you guys have been together a little while.
Yeah. Quite a while. But yeah, my sister to this day does not believe that I met him on Craigslist. I keep telling her I met him on Craigslist, and she's like, sure, Rachel, I think you're just doing a bit. No.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, who knew?
Yeah.
That Craigslist could do that for people.
Yeah. And it's funny because I had a friend a very bad friend. A long time before this, in 2009, a friend of mine got sick of me complaining about being single and told me to make a Craigslist ad back then myself. And I was like 18 years old, and I don't know why I was complaining at all. But so she made me make an ad on Craigslist, and that wound up resulting in the worst date I've ever been on, in which the guy, presented me with a poem in a box and had hair, halfway down his back that, in his photo, his hair had been up here, and he was like 25 years older than I thought he was. And then he like asked me for a second date before dessert. And then when I said no, because you're way older than you said, he cried.
Wow.
Yeah. So I did not think that Craigslist was going to work out for me, but it accidentally did, weirdly enough.
Well, that's great. So what did you find attractive about your husband at first? Like, what was the...
Well, I mean, he told me he was a PhD candidate in rhetoric, and I thought that sounded pretty spicy. That was probably the first clue. I did not think that he was viable initially because his email ended in the word dad. I thought he was a dad, like trolling for women on Craigslist. And it turns out, no, that was just his first two letters of his first name at the end of his last name. So he wasn't even a dad trolling for women on Craigslist. I don't know. But yeah, but also, I mean, I don't know, like, to be perfectly honest, I have historically been attracted to blonde men. I don't know why that is. That's just a thing that I've been into as a Jew. I don't understand it. But, I went into the coffee shop and I saw this curly blonde tuft of hair and cute glasses poking out from behind a big book. And I was like, ooh,
give me some of that. Yeah. All right.
Love it.
That's great. All right. So what is the best compliment anyone's ever given you your naked body?
Oh, I'm naked so often. I don't even know. I'm like a semi-nudist. I'm very into clothes, but I'm also very into being naked. I would say that I can tell you the worst thing anybody's ever said about it, but I'm not going to do that. Probably that it's squeezable and tactile and nice to feel,
All right, that's nice. That's a good compliment. And sometimes people say no one's ever complimented their naked body, so I love the fact that you had a compliment. That's great.
Yeah.
Other than this show, what is the best thing that happened to you today?
Today? Today I mostly just had a stomach ache all day. So maybe
away?
Sort of, yeah. I would say probably the best thing that happened to me today was that I know what it is. The best thing that happened to me today is I received a hat for a Halloween costume, and I cut up the hat to resemble the hat in the costume that I am creating, and I did it in such a way that it looks exactly like the original thing that I'm trying to make it look like. It looks spot on.
Oh, well, great.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see the hat. All right. Yeah. So if people would like to find you, where are your usual places to be found on the internet?
On the internet, I'm on Facebook. On Facebook, I am listed right now as Moose Rothenberg. That is just a wedding joke. That was fake. It's not my real name. However, that is my name on Facebook right now. My comedy page on Facebook is Rachel Rothenberg, but you can search that by doing the URL Rachel Hothenberg, which is very stupid. And I'm also on Instagram at _comedic_stylings_of. And on Twitter at just comedic stylings with no underscores.
All right. I will get that in somewhere so people can see all that. That's fabulous. It was fun doing this with you. I've seen you at a mic or two, and I watched a little bit of stuff that you were doing I stalked you a little bit. So I love people who wear beautiful, striking makeup. So I liked looking at you, so I wanted to go check you out a little bit more. So I'm glad that I got you on here with your unusual pet. And am I going to see you later tonight?
Yeah. I did not actually sign up for that mic, but I'm now doing it because she thought I was signed up, and I was like, I guess I'll do it now. So
great. Yeah. That'll be fun. All
Super
right.
fun.
Well, I'll see you later then. And thanks for being on the show.
Yeah. Thank you for having me and letting me talk about my weird bugs.
What's on her mind? She's a big girl in a skinny woman's world. Now she's a big girl in a skinny woman's world. Now she's a big girl, big girl.